May 6th, 2002, Monday Night Raw. It all started off like all Raws, and all of a sudden we got this commercial of an old woman cutting up her hedge, which was shaped like the WWF logo, and when she got to the F, she chopped it off. The hell is happening? Jim Ross then welcomed us to World Wrestling Entertainment, which sounded very weird, when from nowhere, Bubba Ray Dudley won the Hardcore Championship, because back then it was under 24/7 rules, and this was because Lillian Garcia could then go, "I'm the new WWE Hardcore Champion, Bubba Ray Dudley." So we were just trying to get a message across, and while if you have been on the WWE Network and watched that Ruthless Aggression documentary, no, the change from WWF to WWE wasn't just something Vince McMahon wanted to do. It's because the World Wildlife Fund decided, well, we're going to whoop you tuchus. That's because the World Wrestling Federation had taken some URLs on the internet that the pandas didn't like. They said, remember this deal we signed in the mid-90s? You've broken it, give us our name back. As a judge said, you've got no choice, Vince, you've got to do it. So there was no going back, which is likely why, when Bubba Ray had won this, all of a sudden, Raven beat him for it, because then once again, Lillian Garcia got to say, oh, can you believe it? The new WWE Hardcore Champion, Raven. This was then the same for Just Incredible, Crash Holly, Trish Stratus, and Stevie Richards, and every time we went back to Lillian, so actually fair play to the powers that be, because within about 8 seconds, we had announced the name WWE around about 6 times. We were just getting in people's brains. And look, yes, today it sounds perfectly normal, but if you were around at the turn of the century, when people started saying WWE, it was like, is there something wrong with you? Do you have a disease? The real crazy part is that the federation part was gone. And obviously federation basically means group, and then it came to like entertainment. It's like, well, I can't turn that into a stable. Why are you doing this to me? We also had the old tagline, which was get the F out. And actually, whichever PR firm came up with that one, you got to give them a round of applause because it did work very well. Well, then we had that murky stuff with The Rock saying it about Steve Austin, because Steve Austin had then taken quote unquote his ball home. Look, that's a different video for a different day, but believe you me, we went all in. It really did do its job though, because much like the name Dolph Ziggler, eventually we just got used to it, which was also the case with Dolph. When he was doing that thing backstage, walking up to people going, hey, my name is Dolph Ziggler, it was the exact same method. If you do say something out loud enough, eventually it sticks. What's far more interesting about all of this though is that what did the last days of the WWF look like? Sometimes we're so focused on looking forward, we forget to turn around and check out the past. Because look at it this way, this was happening mere months after Vince McMahon had said, I'm going to inject a lethal dose of poison into the WWF, which is when he brought in the NWO. Now, actually, once again, all he had to do was call up the pandas, and they would have wrecked his promotion for him. I still think it's absolutely incredible that McMahon didn't use this opportunity to take wrestling out of the title of his company, because as we know, he's been trying to replace that for years with the iconic sports entertainment, which directly tied into what he did with Hulk Hogan back in the 80s. And Hulkamania was generally a part of American pop culture back then, and we just used all this hoopla to tell people this isn't that old wrestling you remember from those smoky auditoriums, this is the big time. And look, every time that does come up, we do have to say, no, not every territory was like this, you had some super duper shows, but sure, in terms of taking it mainstream across the world, that did come down to the World Wrestling Federation and Hulkamania running wild. So we did paint it all in a different light though, and of course Hulk Hogan was front and center for that. As he was, if you can believe it, well, we said hello to WWE. Yep. Because as mad as it sounds, when we did do this name change, he was the champion, because once he had returned to the company, he realized, oh my gosh, I can go on a nostalgia run, use that to get his hands on the belt, and during this time period, was actually about to have a feud with The Undertaker. So it was 1991 again. It all makes this feel so surreal because Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was a super duper whooper star at the time, was having like a nothing feud with the NWO and Ric Flair, and then you had Hulk doing this stuff. I tell you, mid-2002 was a really weird time for wrestling. The Rock, Triple H, Kurt Angle, and Vince himself were also still on TV. So if he somehow could have got like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels back, he essentially would have had everybody under one roof that he had ever called a star. But again, they didn't know what was going to happen here, and if he had called it, maybe actually he would have gone and sorted it out. Because I'm sure that would have been the deal if the powers that be were aware, but they weren't. I mean, go back to the Sunday Night Heat 24 hours before this, and you would have no clue. That would be the May 5th episode 2 when Mr. Perfect was taking on Tommy Dreamer, with Raven on commentary, who just wanted to talk about Hulkamania. You kind of sat there going, this is really, really weird. But There was nothing big like people saying, oh my gosh, you won't believe what's going to happen. And instead, Crash Holly reunited with cousin Molly Holly to take on Trish Stratus. And we also had D'Lo Brown taking on the Big Boss Man, who for some reason now was just being called the Boss Man. He lost his big. Just Incredible also lost to RVD on that show. And Eddie Guerrero did do this promo with Terry Runnels, which is questionable at best. At one point he asks her, would you like some Latino blood in you? Sort of sums it up. We still really didn't know what to do after the Attitude Era. So it's kind of mad this is history in the making, because of course those three letters, the WWF, had become synonymous with the industry, and this was us saying goodbye to them, but there wasn't a peep. That's why the closing shot of this is all better, because the last match is indeed Molly Holly versus Trish Stratus, with Jacqueline as the special guest referee. And if you want to know why, I cannot tell you. It's also when Crash does his thing, and yeah, he'd take Trish's face and basically throws it right into the ring apron. I mean, that's of its time as well. You would not do that in 2024. It still makes no differences because around this time, the Hollies were basically bit players, whereas Trish Stratus was leading the division. So even with the distraction, she hits the Stratusfaction, she gets the 1, 2, 3, and that's how Sunday Night Heat goes off air. If you are interested too, when we did get to the following night's Raw main event, it was Steve Austin, Bradshaw, and Ric Flair taking on the very weird new version of the NWO. It ended with no contest though, after Rick had turned on Steve and celebrated with the Big Show. So that's how we said hello to the WWE. Which kind of goes to show in the last 20 or so years, nothing has actually changed. Just for a laugh as well, if we do go back to April 29th, 2002, which was the last properly advertised WWF Raw, we also had some mad shenanigans to end the thing. Because the main event was indeed Hulk Hogan versus William Regal, which is totally amazing. When, of course, The Undertaker pops up, basically gets involved and causes a no contest as he beats Hulk Hogan into a bloody pulp. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? As for SmackDown a few days later, which we also have to talk about because, again, they also said see ya to the WWF, is Hulk Hogan winning in a no DQ match against Chris Jericho with a devastating move. In all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. So I'm going to say it again, my friends. Don't you come into my house and tell me wrestling has changed. It is exactly the flipping same. Which actually goes to show that the WWE/WWF, call it whatever you will, it doesn't matter. It's always going to be the people behind the curtain pulling the strings that actively allow you to see what you want to see, or what they want to see, and you've just got to accept it. We're also, if you can believe it, coming up to that stage where the WWE has been called the WWE longer than it was known as the WWF. And if you're an old man like me, that's when you start thinking about digging your grave. I mean, what else is there to do? It was a proper fascinating change though, because from a marketing point of view, this could have been absolutely terrible, but actually WWE invested all of their money and they came out the other side and they dealt with it. And you cannot say fairer than that. Now, however, I do want to know your memories and your recollections about when the WWE did do this, because I remember mine. I was basically a fetus in 2002, and I could not believe it. It was like, how shall we ever go back? I thought I was going to call it the World Wrestling Federation forever, but nope, they've got me, although I do not call it World Wrestling Entertainment, because you can't fit that into a sentence. Talk about not having a real problem. Also, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And if you would like to hear me talking about more WWE historical stuff, click the video on the screen. Otherwise, have terrific days, my friends, and I'll catch you on the next one.